On Monday, April 3rd, NASA announced that 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Christina Koch, Victor Glover, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen will be embarking on the Artemis II mission, the first crewed Artemis mission, the mission that will establish a lunar presence. But what is Artemis? Who is Artemis? I will let you know in this video. So keep watching and let's get into it. So what is the Artemis project really trying to achieve? So firstly, we want astronauts to land on the moon for the first time in 50 years. And secondly, we want to have a sustainable presence. So unlike the Apollo missions where it was a few missions and then no more missions, we actually want the astronauts to stay there and set up camp and start building a community. Who exactly is Artemis? So Artemis was a Greek goddess of the moon and the twin sister of Apollo. So we know Apollo, the Apollo program is what we recognize as the first missions to the moon. And we had the first humans to land on the moon July 20th, 1969. And this inspired the naming of the Artemis program. So the Artemis program is all about rebranding pre-existing missions that are currently going on at NASA about sending human beings back to the moon as directed by President Trump's Space Policy Directive 1. So this directive actually required NASA to prioritize missions back to the moon. And actually in 2019, Vice President Mike Pence set up a goal which was for humans to land on the lunar South Pole by 2024. One of the most ambitious goals of the Artemis program is to leverage the moon as a launching pad for a future mission to Mars. While robots have conducted extensive research on Mars, NASA actually aims to send humans there by the 2030s. Will we get there? So by utilizing the moon as a critical training ground, the program hopes to equip astronauts with knowledge and resources necessary to navigate the unpredictable mission to Mars. So despite being vastly different missions, the moon's role is a stepping stone, as mentioned in previous videos, which can provide invaluable experience and tools that will aid in the future exploration of our solar system. So the focal point of NASA's Artemis program is around its mega powerful rocket, the Space Launch System, and the Orion spacecraft. So what is the SLS, the Space Launch System? So the SLS is a towering rocket which stands at 322 feet tall, that's 98 meters. It consists of a core stage, an upper stage, and twin 5-segment solid rocket boosters which combine to launch payload into space. So how will the Orion spacecraft get us to the moon? So during crewed Artemis missions, the SLS will launch the Orion spacecraft to the moon. Orion is a larger space capsule than the Apollo command module and is designed to fit 4 astronauts to missions to the moon. What was the first Artemis mission about? So Artemis 1 was an uncrewed test, and the SLS released 10 CubeSats to conduct experiment and demonstrate new technologies. So there was a lot of use to the first mission. So what are these 4 astronauts that have just been selected going to be doing in Artemis 2? So the Orion capsule will transport the 4 astronauts, taking them further from Earth than any human being has ventured before. During the 10-day mission, the crew will execute a lunar flyby, so an orbit, before returning to Earth, testing the spacecraft systems while carrying human occupants. And finally, what about the Artemis III mission? What is this mission going to be about? So the upcoming Artemis III mission will mark the next time a man and the first time a woman step onto the lunar surface. So assuming that the previous missions have been successful, astronauts will be launched to the moon, and a lunar lander will get 2 astronauts from lunar orbit to the lunar surface, specifically the lunar South Pole, and they will spend approximately 1 week on the moon. We're on the moon. The Artemis mission has been a success, but where are we going to set up base and how is it going to work? During the first Artemis missions, we will set up base in the lunar South Pole, and this place has tremendous capability, specifically because of the amount of water ice. Now, if we can extract this invaluable resource, which is water, on the moon, it will have a huge impact on future space exploration. And this is how. So the extraction of the water can be utilized for several important things. So for example, hydration for the astronauts, for humans. Secondly, a resource for rocket fuel. And finally, a coolant for equipment. Have you ever heard of Shackleton's crater? It is a very important feature on the moon, and here's why. Shackleton's crater is a substantial 12-mile, 19-kilometer depression on the moon's surface, and the site is a significant interest for future exploration. You see, the crater's unique feature includes permanent shadows that create areas of extremely low temperatures. So what does this mean? It means it makes it an excellent candidate for ice formation, which means water, which means it can help us with those three things I just mentioned before: rocket fuel, hydration, and a coolant. The Artemis program sounds amazing, right? Like, we're gonna be able to go to the moon, we can set up base there, we know where we're going, we know what we're gonna use. How much is this going to cost? How much will the Artemis missions cost us? Or cost the Americans, rather. So it's currently quite difficult to predict which of these missions are going to be a success until they happen. So the actual price tag is still a question mark, and the exact cost, but we can make approximations. First, we can have a look at the Apollo missions. So how much do the Apollo missions cost? According to NASA, the Apollo program's budget reached $23.6 billion in 1973, which is equivalent to $136 billion today. So per launch, that is $22.6 billion. Pretty expensive. For the Artemis program, NASA's expenditure is expected to reach $93 billion by 2025. And for each SLS Orion launch, the price tag is expected to reach $4.1 billion. This price tag is one of the reasons that Artemis missions, the Artemis program, has become a possibility. That the changes in technology, the fact that we have reusable rockets, public-private partnerships, the likes of SpaceX and Blue Origin coming into play, coming into this theatre we're now looking into, which is space exploration, the future of new space. Now that we know that, what do you guys think? Do you think the Artemis missions, the Artemis program, is worth it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, stay safe, and hopefully one day I will see you in space.